Our guest today was appointed Commissioner of the Department of Consumer Services by Mayor Daley in June 2004. Prior to that, she served as Commissioner of the Department of Buildings. Our guest today received a bachelor's degree in government and her law degree from the University of Notre Dame. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the City Club of Chicago the Commissioner of the Department of Consumer Services, Norma Reyes. Commissioner.
I just first wanted to say that I think I still am a supermodel. Don't get nervous, it's not very long. Thanks everybody for being here, particularly Jay, thank you very much for your kind words. I'd like to also take the time to acknowledge Jim Riley, the Director of Administrative Hearings. Jim, can you please stand? And Jay, I hate to correct you in public, but please allow me to. Marilyn Johnson is not the General Counsel. She's the Chief of Staff. Is that right, Marilyn? Okay. Anyway, so let's clap for the Chief of Staff. Anyway, thank you again for inviting me to share lunch with you today, to share my thoughts on regulatory enforcement. I thought it would be important today, as the Commissioner of the Department of Consumer Services, since I've only held this position since June 1st, to talk to you a little bit about my philosophy of regulatory enforcement so that you know what's ahead. I want to thank Mayor Daley and City Council for giving me this challenge, a challenge that I tell you, it's an awesome challenge to protect the rights of consumers in Chicago, as well as ensuring that the regulatory schemes we embark upon make sense. And I want to repeat that. One of the challenges that I have is to make sure that the regulatory schemes that we embark upon make sense, that our regulatory schemes serve their purposes and do not needlessly burden consumer and businesses or government. The Department of Consumer Services is in the business of protecting consumers. While in their homes, watching a movie on cable, in a cab, in a store, buying a car, or when hiring a home repair contractor, we are a regulatory agency. And the central purpose of any regulatory agency is to achieve compliance. And in my opinion, that is achieved through vigorous enforcement, partnerships, and the use of technology. According to Peter May, a political science professor at the University of Washington, and Raymond Burry, chairman of the Urban and Public Affairs at the University of New Orleans, they say that there are basically three forms or three types of philosophies of regulatory enforcement. That's strict, creative, and accommodative. Strict is send them the plagues, no flexibility, take no prisoners. Creative, it's like our self-certification prison programs that we have been using now in the city. And accommodative, that's showing some flexibility in dealing with an industry that you're regulating. For example, extending a compliance date, if that is going to benefit the consumer, the industries, and government. I want you to know that I embrace all three, strict, creative, and accommodative. So what is our goal as regulators? Compliance. We want compliance. Compliance means that we are meeting our objective, and that's protecting consumers from fraud and deceptive practices by providing them with information to receive a continuous stream of information from the industries we regulate. So it's not just providing information to the consumers, it's also receiving information which industries need to share with regulatory agencies. And I would like to add and sort of stress this. Do you want to be regulated by a regulator that has no information about your industry? Because if you do, I can assure you that that will cost you a lot of money, because I can regulate in the dark. All right, so that's one of the things I want to tell you that is so important. Before I purchased my home, I received some advice that was location, location, location. I'm sure many of you have looked at that. Based on my 20-plus years as a prosecutor and or a regulator, if I were asked for advice from a consumer or a regulator about consumer protection, I would say information, information, information. We need information. You need information. You need to be informed. How do we get businesses and industries that we regulate to comply? Compliance occurs when there is consistency in inspectional practices. Consistency in inspectional practices occurs through setting and sharing inspectional standards and continual training of inspectional staff. Compliance is achieved when there is frequency and thoroughness in inspections. Compliance is achieved when there is a likelihood of meaningful sanctions. There must be sanctions. It can't just be the cost of doing business. Compliance is achieved when there are shared expectations of compliance by the regulator and the businesses being regulated. Compliance is achieved through education, public awareness. Information must get into the hands of both the provider of the services and the consumer. Compliance is achieved when there is a commitment by businesses to comply. And how do we obtain that commitment from them? My view is that it has to cost businesses more not to comply. That's the bottom line. It has to cost businesses more not to comply. Through agency leadership, flexibility, vigorous enforcement, and prosecution, I believe that together, these four things enhance businesses' commitment to comply with regulatory schemes. So now that you know my philosophy, I just want to talk to you, which is, of course, I tell you I embrace all three: strict, flexible, and creative. What are some of the priorities in the coming year, some of the things that we've been working on since June 1st? And that's building and continuing partnerships. We are not anti-businesses. It's quite the contrary. Most businesses in Chicago are run by hardworking, honest individuals who treat their customers well. They don't want to be tarnished by the few bad operators that are out there. So I guess when you really think about it, we're all working for the same purpose: helping good businesses prosper, putting bad businesses out of business. Important partners in this effort are the local chambers of commerce and the business organizations such as Greater North Michigan and the State Street Council. They understand that content customers are the lifeblood of successful businesses. They also know what government expects of business owners. We want good businesses to succeed. When they flourish, customers benefit through competitive prices and a larger selection of goods and services. One of the regulatory partnerships that I'm most excited about is our work with the Mayor's Office of People with Disability. As you know, the mayor is committed to making Chicago the most accessible city in the world. We share in that commitment. MOPD has provided tuition to our inspectional staff to ensure that cities' accessibility ordinances are complied with. We will continue working with MOPD and the taxi industry to improve taxi service by making cabs more available and accessible to all the passengers who depend upon them. I am proud to be part of the first ever ongoing multi-agency task force in Chicago to combat the consumer fraud crimes against immigrants. The FTC created this task force, which includes the city, FBI, the Attorney General's Office, the U.S. Postal Service, and the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. Not surprisingly, immigrants are often targets of consumer fraud. In fact, a recent FTC study shows that nationally, Hispanics, whether they speak English or not, are twice as likely as non-Hispanic whites to be victims of consumer fraud. That should not be. People coming to this country anxious to work toward a better life for themselves and their families deserve to realize their dream without fear of being cheated. And also all of us who live here, not just the people that are coming here, but all of us, we deserve that. But especially the immigrant population is a population that needs protection, that needs more protection, because hopefully at least we understand the language. So the goal of this task force is to sort of target consumer fraud against immigrants, and we aim to achieve our goal through multi-agency enforcement coordination, sharing of information, and disseminating information to consumers in Chicago. I just want to take a brief moment here to talk about technology. I mentioned that I think technology is very, very important to effectively and successfully regulate businesses, industries, and protect the consumers. Through the use of technology, we can provide information to consumers as well as businesses we regulate in real time. We can receive, analyze, and store regulatory filings. I mean, simply, compliance is better achieved by a regulatory agency that uses state-of-the-art technology to reduce paperwork for itself and the businesses they regulate, using technology to increase the ability to standardize inspections as well, using data collected to predict trends. For example, if we begin to map the complaints, if we're getting a series of complaints in an area of Chicago and it's home repair fraud, and we try and we look at all the variables, and it's an area where there are single-family homes, where most of the people that are living in those homes are senior citizens, then we can take that data and that information, not only to protect the people that are there and target that area to provide information and to make sure that the community-based organizations, that the aldermen and the police are aware that this scam is going on. But also, I think one of the things that's really important about analyzing data and consumer data, things that is in terms of fraud, is trying to predict some trends. If we dump it all into a computer, just like they're doing in the police department, we can predict the trend. Where is potentially the next area that's going to be hit? If it's a scam that's going on where there's a lot of senior citizens in single-family homes, we can map those areas, identify those areas, and get information out there, again, to try and prevent. Prosecution is great, but I would, and I don't mind prosecuting. I don't mind sending people the plagues. But what I would love to accomplish is prevention. I just would love to see every day 1 less, 2 less, 4 less victims, particularly those people that cannot help them 4 less. In an effort to improve communication with the inspectors in the field, we'll begin making, I did this while I was the building commissioner. We're going to use the web-enabled as a simple technology, web-enabled phones, which provide us with a management tool, improving accountability and productivity. With these phones, they'll have GPS. We'll know where everybody's at when we need them, and even when we don't need them. Shortly, our inspectors will begin to use the web-enabled phones that will eventually link them to various city databases while out on the field. This will provide them readily accessible information while conducting investigations and/or inspections. These web-enabled phones, again, have that GPS technology. We are also using technology to communicate with the public and with businesses. By accessing our website, and we do have a new website, I encourage you to go to it. Members of the public can file a complaint online, currently in 2 areas, that's cable and for taxis. And business owners can read city regulations that govern their industry. Through the use of technology, we are making the Department of Consumer Services more accessible. That in turn helps us work better and smarter, which will positively impact the businesses we regulate and the people we serve. I mentioned earlier about compliance philosophies that I, as a manager, embrace. I see these philosophies coming together to shape the future of this department. The way I believe we achieve this vision is by continuing to enhance our technological abilities, expanding our corporate government and our government-government partnerships, and through active enforcement schemes. I see all of you as important members of that partnership. By working in concert, our ultimate goals will be met: satisfied customers, prosperous businesses, and a city that benefits from both. Thank you.
It's the supermodel again. We will have question and answers in one moment, but first I want to acknowledge that Michael Scott walked in, president of Chicago Public Schools. And seeing Mr. Scott reminds me, I think it's 2 weeks away, or 1 week away, I have it marked in my book, of course, is PFAD, Principal for a Day. If you haven't signed up for a school and you're not committed to a school, please call the board. I don't remember the number. It's 773-553, and then I forget the rest. But please get involved with your local school. And if you can't be at the school on PFAD Day, go visit another day and find out the needs in your community. And I wasn't even paid to give that plug. I'm just committed to my particular school, and I know how important the program is. I will start off with my question, because since I have the microphone, I get to go first. Other people, there's a microphone in the middle. If you'd like to line up, remember this show's on CAN TV, so you get to watch yourself on TV. And in fact, we have one of the board members of CAN TV here, Peter Scozzi, while we're waiting for someone else to. And Peter's also with the Metropolitan Planning Commission. There's Peter. Yeah, okay, here's my question. Department of Consumer Services does a fabulous job on nailing Walgreens, Dominic's, Jewel, I don't want to, Osco. There are a lot of the stores, when you do your undercover stings on overcharging at the register. It's actually not as much overcharging, of the fact is that they haven't entered into the scanner the fact that things are on sale. Every year or 2 times a year, you nail the places, we get a lot of publicity, they pay a fine, but as a consumer, I feel they're stealing from me, so their fine should be more than whether it's a $5 or $10 or $20,000. I say almost like, let's send them to jail. They're stealing from my pocket. I'm looking at what something's supposed to be selling for, and if I don't watch real carefully, I'm being overcharged. Do you think there's a way that you can, try to make the fine so high and so horrendous that they will make sure that prices are entered correctly when there's sales?
Well, I think a couple of things, Kathy. First of all, I think that if we can show that there's a pattern in practice and that this is something that the agency or these businesses are doing intentionally to defraud the public, certainly we can put a case together and send it to the state's attorney's office or to the U.S. Attorney's Office for prosecution, for criminal prosecution, particularly to the feds under RICO. But I think the thing that we have to figure out is there a problem with the systems that they're using? What are the systems that they're using? And so Walgreens actually, I have been working with, or our department has been working with Walgreens because, in fact, there have been some issues with their pricing. And so our staff that deal with the alternative pricing systems, and that's the scanner system, and has been working and training their personnel. I had a meeting with members of executives from Walgreens, and to say to them, look, this is just not acceptable, and maybe to show your commitment, unfortunately, if there is a particular store that continually does this, you should fire the manager, because part of this is bad management. If it isn't an issue of a pattern in practice and committing a right, this is bad management. Fire the manager.
Oh, let me ask, because I'm at the microphone, I get to do follow-up, and no one can throw me off. Wouldn't it be, though, through a central computer system that all of the prices get entered for sale? So wouldn't it be not just one particular store? If a price is wrong at the Walgreens on Dearborn, it would be wrong on Washington, Michigan, everywhere else?
Right, and that is why we're working with them so that we can identify either the timing that they're putting these things on sale. The timing is wrong. They should change the timing from the time. They should have these checks and balances. We're developing checklists for them before they put their things on sale. So I think, and that's going back sort of towards my philosophy. I mean, again, you commit a crime, I have no problem going
Send 'em to
after
jail.
you.
Yeah.
I have no problem going after you. But if there's a problem that we can solve to protect the consumer, and so that so that we can concentrate on the issues and some of the consumer fraud problems that are really plaguing the city, I think that that's important.
Okay, I'll let Joy Saxon go, member of the Board of Governors of City Club.
Commissioner Reyes, I live downtown and I take a number of cabs. It is rare that I get into a cab that the driver isn't on the phone from the time I get in. He barely stops talking long enough to hear where I want to go until the end of the ride. This is dangerous and annoying, and if I tell them to stop it, they ignore me. Is there anything you can do about it?
Well, I've been actually asked this question, I want you to know, numerous times, and I know that there are people here from the taxi industry, so I would like them to take note of that question. And what I can do is totally ban the phones. That's what I can do. My concern with that is that if I totally banned the phones, their ability to immediately call for assistance, to call for 911, if a passenger needs help and doesn't have a phone, or if they're falling prey to a crime, or if they're in some medical emergency. I think what we need to do is stress to the management, and I would encourage you, call 311 and make that complaint every single time. Every single time you are in a cab and they're continuously talking, call and make a complaint, because then it's a management problem.
Okay.
It's a problem of the owners of the cabs that they're not enforcing the rules vigorously enough. Because I would hate to take the phone away,
Sure.
but if the public insists, then possibly that would end up having to be an option.
Okay,
Could
thank
be an
you.
option.
I'll add
Thank
two
you.
things to that. If you look on the back of in your cab, it says cell phone use only allowed in emergencies. You can also, file a complaint online with the Department of Consumer Services. I filed a complaint recently against refusal of service, and I have a hearing coming up November 3rd. It was promptly, taken care of. And here's something else wonderful. I don't even have to go in person to testify at this hearing. I can do it over the phone. So you
telephonic
don't
thing.
have to worry that, oh, gosh, if I make a complaint, I'm going to have to show up there and actually, follow through on it. I can do it on the phone. So on November 3rd at 1 o'clock, I'm sitting by my phone so I can complain against the two cab drivers. And then one more cab thing, and then I will let you speak. Also, you should be aware of a wonderful program that the commissioner has on Cab Driver Recognition Awards, where she gives away 2 medallions every year to drivers that have demonstrated that they serve underserved communities, that they serve those in need. And again, I think go on the website and find applications for you to nominate drivers for the Cab Driver Recognition Award. Another wonderful program of the commissioner.
Right, actually, we're accepting nominations right now, so if you go onto the city's website and then go to the buildings department, please do, and I think I'm going to hire Kathy as my PR person.
No, Connie is absolutely wonderful.
I know she is.
We had another question. Okay, now you can speak. I'll keep my mouth shut now.
Actually, before the question, I want to acknowledge, which I failed to do, and I apologize. There are members of my staff here that are, my team, that are very, very important, and they're sitting at that table right there. Bernadette Bailey. You see there? I always call her Bernadette Bailey. That's her maiden name. It's Bernie Williams. Whenever I introduce her publicly, I always say Bailey. I don't know why. Gladys Alcazar. Jim McFain. Ryan Schlossenberger. Can you believe I can pronounce that? And there's Peter Farrell. And of course, the best PR person.
That's right, Connie Buscemi.
Connie Buscemi.
Buscemi.
And over here is Mark Jamil. Thanks. And just one more thing, I just wanted to acknowledge that Rod Sierra actually came in for People's Energy. Hey, Rod, thanks for being here. I'm sorry, now I'm ready.
Now he can speak. Yeah.
Commissioner, I understand now that you have cable administration under your department.
That's
and,
correct.
I was wondering if you could give us a little bit of an insight of where you're seeing cable regulation going, and might we see competition at any time in the future in terms of cable services in the city?
Well, certainly there's competition in Area 1. I actually, my hope is that we're going to see more competition. I think the satellite companies, DirecTV, although some people may disagree, are giving the cable companies some competition. Unfortunately, the city does not really benefit from that because the satellite industry went to Washington and obtained, had legislation passed that precluded local agencies from collecting the taxes due and owing to us. But anyway, I don't know. I'm going to be frank with you. I don't know if we're going to see more competition. As you know, Comcast is in all 5 areas. We have a small company, Wild Open West, which is in Area 5, and they have about 14,000 customers. And they're and truly in 2, either RCN is in 2, but it's just they have a small customer base. So where we're really seeing competition is in 1, and that has been the goal of the city since they enacted the cable ordinance. I think that we have to see and identify what are the issues in the industry that are preventing. I mean, we've seen one company fail after another. Part could be the technology. The technology has changed so rapidly that now that there are other ways for people, like I said, the satellite, so on and so forth. So we'll see. I can just tell you that as the Commissioner of Consumer Services, I am very committed to looking at areas and working with my partners like Comcast and the agencies I work with, but with CAN-TV, Barbara Popovich, who's here, and looking at ways, and with the national organization and the state organization for telecommunications administrators, at ways that we can enhance competition.
Oh, I'm going to do a follow-up, as is my right, being the one person up here. RCN owes millions of dollars, correct, to the city and to CAN-TV? What
Yes.
can we do to nail those guys to make sure that CAN-TV gets the funding that it needs and that we as taxpayers and citizens of Chicago get our money?
Well, I think we're doing exactly what we need to be doing, and we're in litigation with RCN, so I can't actually discuss all those things, but I would say to you that this is where the strict the strict regulator comes to mind for me.
Be brutal against them.
Well, that's your term.
Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner, good to see you here today. My name is Dennis Quinn. I'm the president of System Parking, but my other hat, I'm the chairman of Traffic and Transportation for Greater North, and valet parking, dear to, I'm sure, your heart, the consumer services, and to the public in general. We do a lot of valet parking, and we have been in Chicago for a long time. I understand that there's a ordinance for us to get a valet license that we're required to provide proof of where these cars are going off the street. And my question is, there are companies out there that do it very well and legitimately, and I was wondering is if there's any mechanism in place where the consumer services inspectors can find the ones that aren't complying with that part of the ordinance and deal with it.
Just so you know, there are ways. We do valet stings all the time, in the evening in particular, and also on the weekends, because that's where we see a lot of the problems. And we also do some valet stings during the day. We try to identify them. Actually, it's interesting that you bring this up, because just a few weeks ago I started bringing in the heads of all the valet companies and talking to them about the problems, the traffic jam, the congestions, the horn beeping, all those things that communities are experiencing. And since I have been here, I have revoked a couple of licenses to a couple locations. There was a particular location, Mike Ditka's, the company at the time that I came in was had a lot of issues, and so we revoked their license. So it's something that we're continually doing and will continue to do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Another question, okay.
Commissioner, I was wondering if you've received any consumer complaints about price gouging on a flu vaccine due to the seasonal shortage, and if this issue is being addressed by your department at all, or if you know anything about any kind of black market sales of flu vaccine due to the shortage.
Well, we haven't received any complaints. There has been an advisory that has gone out. I would say that my understanding is that there has been some flu vaccine that, well, there was a load of flu vaccine that was stolen. So I would encourage the public to be aware that there was flu vaccine being stolen. You want to make sure that you know where you're getting your flu shots. Get them where you normally get them. Your doctor, the Board of Health, so on and so forth, to prevent from being victimized as a consumer, as a patient.
Holly Agra from
Hello.
from Chicago's First Lady.
Hi, Commissioner. I want to thank you for all the great work you've done this summer, but also on behalf of the Greater North Michigan Avenue Association, specifically the Public Way Committee, we were wondering if you regulate ice cream trucks.
Ice cream trucks, no. Are they on the public way?
They are on the streets.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Did you mean regulate like how much each piece of ice cream weighs, or just where they're allowed to? Because how much the ice cream would weigh would be hers if they're
Right,
if they're
but
cheating you. Yeah,
but one of
you
the
meant when
things
they're
we
apart,
don't, one of the things we don't do, Kathy, is we don't go out and carry a scale and weigh
Yeah.
ice cream out on the
Yeah.
street. But actually, if you want me to, I'd be more than happy to do that for you.
Do we have any other questions? Anyway, I will finish up by saying you can watch this show again if you missed part of it because you were talking to somebody on Saturday, October 30th at 7 o'clock on CAN TV 21, or November 3rd, my birthday, 10 a.m. on CAN TV 19. So even on my birthday, I'm testifying against cab drivers. We do have the head of CAN TV here, Barb Popovich, so we should give her applause. I'm also supposed to remind everyone to join City Club. Could I see a show of hands? Who in the room is already a member? Maybe everyone in here is a member. Who? No, there are people who aren't. Why? Let me point to someone who isn't a member. Did you raise your hand? Okay, wait, let me find. Raise your hands again so I can see who's not a member. So now okay. Who's not? Someone at that table, why aren't you a member? $50 a year.
Sue Irian, Ask Sue Arian. She didn't raise
Oh,
her
yeah,
hand.
Sue.
Sue,
Okay.
stand
Sue
up,
was a-
please.
A professor at
Sue,
Northwestern,
a
someone who should
professor
be-
at Northwestern Law School. Can you please explain why?
Why you're not a member?
You are
It's
not a
$50
member?
a year.
Is it information, information, information?
Okay. She pleads the fifth. Because what I noticed also on this wonderful brochure, there's 16 people, 13 of them are Democrat. I'm a Republican, so obviously we need more Republicans to join so we can have more Republican pictures in the next brochure. Maybe I can, I'll offer to sponsor it so we have more Republican pictures in there. $50 a year, you all should be members. City Club is very important for Chicago because we get the word out, we get messages out. Where else would you get to be able to hear what's going on in consumer services, what's going on at McPeer, what's going on at CTA, what's going on in the Attorney General's office? And when events sell out, if you're not a member of City Club, you don't get in. So, I mean, you have to be a member just for the clout. So I thank you all for coming and, oh yeah, that's right, I forgot, where's that? Oh, that's right. You get, by coming to speak, you get the special City Club mug.
Well, thank you very much.
And the commissioner gets honorary one-year membership, so she doesn't have to buy your membership.
I want you to know I already paid,
Yeah,
but that's okay.